Hello, I'm the Just Okay Whitney Lee. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Are You Ready for Platform Adoption or Are You Setting Yourself Up for Failure? So this is a very serious talk, clearly, we have about platform adoption, and it's in the form of clickbait-style headlines. But before we dig in, let's introduce our panelists. I'm Whitney Lee. I just started this new job. I'm a senior technical advocate at Datadog. And next up.
Hi, I'm Abby Bangser, and I'm a principal engineer at Syntasso, where we're building Cradix, and you can chat with us outside if you want to learn more about it.
Hello, I'm Leena Mooneeram. I'm a senior platform engineer at Chainalysis.
And hi, y'all. My name is Margarita, Medina. I'm a staff developer advocate at Upbound, and we're the creators of Crossplane.
So let's dig in. Your platform was doomed from the start, and here's why. So first of all, you might be doomed if you have the idea of a portal confused with the idea of a platform. So if Backstage is your everything, I have bad news for you, friend. You're doomed. So Backstage is certainly awesome for what it does, but what a platform is essentially is it's an integrated capabilities that are for your developers to use, and they might use it through a web UI, through a portal, certainly, that's one interface, but you also may want to build CLI, IDE, you may want to make your capabilities into templates. You want to bring those capabilities where the developers are, and all of those capabilities together, not the interface, is the platform. And I'm further enraged by the fact that the IDP acronym, a lot of people say IDP when they mean portal. IDP is for platforms.
Laying down the law. So I'm a big fan of disambiguating the IDP acronym, but I think the thing that I see the most platform teams being doomed by is re-centralizing operations and services without providing things on demand. So if you have a team that is called the platform team, and they have to manage the infrastructure, they have to manage the security, they have to manage everything about the resources themselves and reach out to experts for help, you're going back in time to dev and ops split. We've got that operational backlog and bottleneck in the middle of the organization. So your platform's doomed unless you're able to create an on-demand API that can enable people to access resources and allow the people who are experts in your organization to add new services and new API endpoints to the platform easily.
I say that your platform is doomed if you have no business outcomes defined. That means that you don't have strategic leadership buy-in, you have no alignment in that, you have no goals that are set, no set objectives, there's nothing that you're tracking or that you're measuring, or if you have a lack of developer experience and you're not thinking about the users that you're serving.
Doomed.
Absolutely. And building on that alignment that Anna just mentioned, if you haven't got alignment and buy-in from your leadership, well, you may as well just leave, maybe in about 25 minutes, but
Get out of here.
You're doomed. You need that buy-in from leadership to encourage engineers to take part and engage in platform initiatives. So I like to talk about the developer sandwich. It's where you have platform as a foundation to your sandwich. It's a light sandwich. So platform is your kind of base layer. You've got your developers that are building on top of that base layer provided by platform. And then you've got that very light leadership along the top who are encouraging and supporting engineers to take part and use the initiatives and the tooling provided by platform. So certainly not mandating, but certainly encouraging.
The platform sandwich, I love it. So next up, do you think you're in control? The truth about ready-made solutions that no one wants you to know. So first, let's level set on what a ready-made solution even is. So you can access or really buy all kinds of help with your platform. And you could also completely build your own capabilities 100% from the ground up with no help from anyone. Thank you very much. And there's a lot of gray area in between. So a little bit of help might be using managed solutions for single platform capabilities at a time. And that's great. So it's like Datadog, for example, or AWS Lambda would be examples of managed solutions. But you still get to control how these are integrated into the broader IDP. And you still get to control, you are the one putting up policy, doing security, you still have a lot of control. But then there's also a fully ready-made solution that does everything for you. So that's like Humanitech or Northflank or VMware Tanzu are examples of that. And it's cool not to have to do anything, and you do get to add your own customization. Configuration, excuse me, but you can't really customize for your specific use cases. You're using their opinions about how your business is run. I'm not saying anything is good or bad, but maybe these folks have some opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're great. Okay, so I'm in a platform team where I've got so much to do. Our estate is massive. We're touching things from hardcore infrastructure to documentation. If there is a tool or a solution that I can use, and perhaps a managed solution that I can bring in that will help me and my team achieve some of the goals, perhaps for our kind of generic parts of our platform, the non-org specific parts, and absolutely, it's fantastic. It reduces the cognitive load for platform engineers, and yes, it's a thing for platform engineers as well. And also, it liberates us to actually focus on the org-specific features of platform engineering.
Yeah, I love them as well, and actually think they're really powerful. So I was a platform engineer at an organization that used Vercel, and I was also the platform engineer that had to take us off of Vercel. And I can tell you I've heard about that about every day since, because it was just such a great experience for the app developers that was on that platform. But the problem was our business outgrew the decisions and the policies that Vercel forced upon us. So we had to create a PCI DSS compliant environment, and we could not do that on their platform. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about being in control of your ready-made solutions, you're not just buying technology, you're buying decisions, you're buying your policy, you're buying the way that you work. And when you're at a certain scale, that's fantastic and a huge boon, like a huge support for your org. But when you get to certain requirements and you have to differentiate yourself or meet certain things, it may need more customization and not just configuration. So.
I do think those are great points, but I think we're forgetting one shocking truth that we're not talking about, and that is there's always going to be a cost. There's going to be a cost if you're buying an off-the-shelf solution, and that means that you're paying for the tooling, you're paying for the professional services, you're paying for training. But when you're building it yourself, you're also thinking about the hours that you're spending for that to get built up, for it to get managed, for it to be scaled up, and of course, up-leveling with new technology that keeps coming out. So it's a high cost to pay, so you really need to consider if you are going to build something custom. One of the tips that I have for building something custom is that try to look for something that you can actually eventually move over to a vendor if you need to, as that maybe gets a little bit more chaotic. So definitely keep that in mind.
So there's always a cost, either a time cost or a money cost. So here's some life-changing platform building tools, including one that will shock you. So I want to start off by talking about using an API building tool. So these can be pretty specialized in the case of cluster API that you would use to build cluster APIs, go figure. Or it could be like Kubevela to build an application-specific API. There's also more general APIs you could use to help build APIs for your platform on Kubernetes, and that would be stuff like Crossplane or Kratix, which can work much more broadly. But why? Why do you need to do your platforms as APIs? So for one thing, the platform should be self-service, and an API is going to empower that. Also, the API, as I kind of talked about before, it enables many interfaces. So I was saying you should have your interfaces, your capabilities should come to the developers, and they should be where your developers are. Well, if it's an API, then you can wrap that API in lots of different interfaces. So think about your hyperscalers. Think about Google Cloud. Like you have the G Cloud CLI, you have the web console you can go to, you have Terraform modules, but in the end, all of that is calling the Google Cloud API, and your platform should be built that way too. Another thing is that APIs can be like building blocks for your system. So you can have an API for a database, an API for a cloud environment, and an API for your application. And then you can compose those APIs together to make more complex solutions and put that behind a single API that's underscored by your API building blocks. And then finally, it's good for stuff like governance, security, observability, win, 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 win.
A tool, yes, I definitely agree on that. A tool that we need to consider is a mission controller policy. So make sure you have some cluster level policies that basically become the fundamental rules for your platform. And this allows for you to prevent unauthorized actions from actually taking place in your platform. So you can scope them out to be namespace. You can scope them out based on teams, based on environments, and set up guardrails. Why do we need this? Well, first, we want consistency. We want it to be easier to troubleshoot. We also want to set up best practices for your platform and the teams that are adopting it. And it also creates a great traceable audit trail for you to later do auditing and governors. And if you're building a platform on Kubernetes, leveraging something like Radix or Crossplane, you can take advantage that in Kubernetes version 1.29, validating admission policy got brought in, so you can actually leverage that to actually do your admission controller policy. And you can also leverage tools like Kyverno and Open Policy Agent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think those are both great. But I think what you really need is actually an observability tool, right? So we're here. We're all about our customers, our engineers, right? And observability lets you get ahead of the problems that they might be facing. It doesn't just show you potentially what has happened, but it might show you why it's happened. And you can start to see problems before they actually become blockers or real issues for our customers. So observability tooling can be anything from like Grafana, Datadog, Honeycomb, and there's a huge number of tooling that's available out there. Absolutely, it's a great boon and to really help support platform engineering, become customer-facing and stay customer-facing.
Techies are gonna tech. And I realize I'm saying that to a room of techies. But I'm just saying, the tool that we actually really need from platform engineering is some decent documentation.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Shock horror. But seriously, so documentation is something that has, always is a joke about whether or not engineers want to write it and if it's any good and all these things. But one of the working groups within the CNCF for app developers is trying to do some research right now about how to support software application developers in the cloud native space. And they have found that over 50% of application developers struggle to pick up cloud native technologies because the documentation is lacking. What happens when documentation is lacking? People don't adopt your platform or your tool, or they ask you. So if techies really want to tech, they got to get their documentation right, because it's going to completely reduce the amount of toil that you have when you're dealing with things. And the thing is you can do it all with some amazing tech behind it. There are tools that you can automate the code within your documentation to validate it. There are tools like within AI to generate fantastic documentation, validate your documentation, and so on. So it doesn't have to be without tech, but focus on that documentation first.
Can you bring your documentation to your developers too, so they don't have to leave their tools?
I hope so. Plug that right into the IDE, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's hover over something. Tell me what's up.
MCP servers, that's the buzzword.
Okay, so there are 4 common adoption mistakes you're probably already making. The first one is if you're relying on top-down mandates. If someone's telling your developers they have to use a platform, that is problematic. That's a mistake you're already making. A platform should be optional. And there are a few reasons for this. One is that you're missing out on a valuable piece of feedback if you are forcing your developers to use it. One big way you know whether your platform is good is whether your developers are excited to use it. Another thing is, if you're saying devs have to use the platform, that puts pressure on the platform to be everything to everyone. It puts pressure on the platform to have to build for every use case ever. And there are going to be Snowflake use cases and Snowflake app teams. And you know what? Good job, friends. Good luck on your journey. Go do that over there. For the platform, we're building for broad, undifferentiated use cases. And then the last thing is, app teams know what's best for their app. They're living and breathing that app every day. So you as an organization should trust them to do their job well and not give them some big mandate from above.
Trust. But also point them in the right direction. I feel like the biggest adoption mistake I see, and it's shocking the number of companies I talk to and engineers I talk to, that when you ask them, why are you doing platform engineering, there's no answer. they don't know why, they don't know how they're measuring it either, right? So even if they say, well, I want to save cost. Okay, well, how are you measuring that cost? How are you measuring your focus on that? So if you're talking about adoption, you have to know why you care about adoption and how you're going to measure that you're actually achieving the outcomes that adoption is supposed to drive. If you're looking for developer retention through developer experience, that's one thing. If you're looking for cost optimization, another thing. If you're looking for reducing your footprint and your risk profile, that's another thing. And all of those are going to build very different platforms, and the adoption patterns are going to look very, very different. So you got to make sure you set those standards, expectations.
I totally agree with you, Abby. He's very much of like, we're engineers, we want to engineer, we want to tech, and there's so many different shiny tools in the platform engineering ecosystem, but we get stuck debating on what tool is best without remembering that platform engineering is about enabling the business. So you actually do need to focus on business level outcomes, and some of that looks like increased developer experience and developer autonomy, decrease in deployment time, decrease in time deploying new services and applications, lowering operational costs, better incident response and recovery, as well as how long does it take for new engineers to onboard to your company and to your services.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think one of the key adoption mistakes, or one of the challenges to getting adoption for platform tooling and platform initiatives, is that sometimes actually platform engineers, we build what we think our customers want. And we're not actually taking the time to understand the non-platform engineering pain points and understand the real things that need to be solved. And I think this links back a little bit to what you were saying, Whitney, about if you mandate, then you miss out on that signal completely. And then you actually have to go and talk to every engineer individually and say, do you like it? Are you using it? So being very clear as to why you're building a particular tool and why you're developing a particular feature, and linking back again to what you were saying, Abby, is actually how do you measure it? How do you show that you're actually moving the needle for our customers' kind of pain points and friction?
All right, our next one is the feedback flaws that are killing your platform. And this time we're going to be nice and tell you how to fix them instead of just everything you're doing wrong. So the first one is just not collecting feedback at all is the problem. So we need I'm kind of repeating some of what Leena just said especially, but we want to make sure our platform is solving real problems that really exist, not just what you think exists. We want to use feedback to meaningfully improve the developer experience, which is going to therefore increase platform adoption. Feedback, it also drives the direction of the platform. So if we're getting feedback about what's working, we're getting feedback also about what features to build next and how we're going to continue to have impact at our organization. And then one of my favorite parts about feedback is that it creates a culture of collaboration between the platform team and the developers. And that culture of collaboration, well, it just feels good for one thing. But it's really great to find like a particularly skillful and engaged app team and collaborate with them as you're getting started building your platform. And then that app team is going to turn around and become evangelists for your platform too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, it was me next. Yeah, definitely. So along with getting feedback, one of the flaws could be that you're actually not getting feedback about the right things. So it's great, we put out a bunch of features and, we're asking our engineers, how's it going? Are you enjoying using it? But what we're not asking or we're not looking is beyond that. We need to be constantly looking at what are the other issues that we need to solve. We can't rest on our laurels. A platform team's work is never done. So we'll fix one thing and it's a little bit whack-a-mole. There will be multiple more things to fix. So we can't lose sight on that future goal and that, kind of automating and making platform really seamless and stable.
So what I'm hearing is we have to know why we're getting feedback and we have to know what we want feedback on. But how we do it has a lot of flaws right now as well. I know everyone loves a good survey. Everyone loves to throw together their Google form and send it out into the wild and try and get information back. But the thing is a survey is going to give a point-in-time piece of information. And how you craft those questions can be really difficult. And are you going to trace those over time? In part because surveys lend themselves to quantitative data the most, so numbers. Qualitative is where you're going to get a lot of the information that you need, and surveys may help with that, or other types of asynchronous feedback. But also things like I used to call a ride along, where you go and you just sit next to people and just see how they do their jobs. Because so many people don't realize that there can be better. The number of people I've talked to that are like, I don't need any help. Look I just do this. And I'm like, oh boy, like, you're right. You don't need help. You are successful right now, but you would be able to do so much more with your time if we could unlock some things for you. And so I think how you do it needs a lot of work as well.
And I'm going to leave you with some tips, which actually piggyback on what Abby was saying, where like, you should definitely run surveys, but don't necessarily make them from scratch and think that you know best. We all know Durometrics, leverage something like that, or you can also look at frameworks like Space or the DX Core 4 framework. And you also want to ride along. You want to not roll out your platform engineering efforts to everyone at once. You want to start it with one team, let them be the adopters, see the flaws that they're having, where they're struggling to adopt, and then fix them. And then make them be their first customer 0, customer 1 that really adopts your platform engineering concepts, and that they themselves become advocates for other dev teams to actually adopt what you're trying to do. And if you can, collect that minimal viable feedback. So have either check-ins with the teams that are adopting, have either Slack threads that are going on, or build something into your platform that checks in how is it that this experience is actually going. And you don't just want to collect for collecting. You want to think about actually being actionable on this and like get this into a roadmap, get this into a backlog, talk to decision makers. So try to bring this to a platform product owner and see what they can do with that feedback. And you want to treat feedback like it's an external SaaS product where it's very continuous and you're trying to constantly adopt from it and do measurable improvements.
Did I hear you say platform product owner? We thought we didn't need a platform product owner. Here's how that went. So first of all, what even is a platform product owner? Let's not assume that you know what that is. You might have heard this idea. You've likely heard this idea of platform as a product. So that's when we're treating our internal developer platform as a product. So therefore, we're saying it should be like a consumer-facing product. So we want it to be self-service. We want it to have clear value to the user. We want it to have really strong interfaces. So then if we're treating our platform as a product, then it makes sense then that we would have a product owner as part of our platform. So what is this person's role exactly? So this person, it's their job to understand the developer's needs of the entire organization, or at least their piece of it. But as such, they're going to also help define future capabilities. And with all of that knowledge, then they can manage the platform engineers themselves in their day-to-day work to make sure we have a North Star, we have clear outcomes that we're working toward, and everyone's working toward those outcomes. They're also going to help drive adoption across the platform. You might even have advocates, internal advocates on the platform engineering team. And then the last thing they're going to do, which maybe is the most important thing, is they're the ones communicating with stakeholders about the value of the platform and showing the value to the stakeholders and trying to get more resources to grow it.
Without a product owner, there might be no one in the team that's actually product thinking. So we're engineers, we constantly want to build, and that means that we might just jump into solution mode before going into problem mode, before actually exploring a landscape and trying to understand what is it that we're trying to solve. So one of the tips that I have is to actually look for 3 different options of like, how is it that I can actually solve this before just running with one. You also don't want to skip out on user research. You want to gather direct feedback and not just assume what is it that your users are trying to do. Like what type of workflows are they using? Are they leveraging CLIs? Do they want Slack integrations? Do they just need a UI? Are they looking for a portal? And even though platforms engineers are engineers and our end users are engineers, they're not the same type of engineers. So you need to do the research and talk to those application developers, try to understand their constraints, what workflows they're actually going through on a day-to-day basis. And additionally, with that product thinking, you get to think about what the success look like for the features that you're actually rolling out. So that allows for you to actually define what success looks like and make sure to have that as your North Star, as Whitney was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've worked in teams with and without a product owner, and there is a difference. So, having a product owner, you have an individual that has that focused, holistic thinking. They have a different skill set to perhaps us as engineers. I'm not saying that we can't do it, But perhaps our focus is, kind of as Anna said, is actually on the engineering. And really, our customers are important. That product thinking and that product approach shouldn't be just an engineer's side gig and something they do when they have time, around the coding. I also like to talk a little bit about the platform iceberg. So kind of platform work tends to be, I think, 90% under the water. It's invisible. And we have that 10%, perhaps 20% for some, that is visible and actually interfaces with engineers and has some airtime. You actually need someone that's skilled to communicate and show that value that platform teams bring to organizations. And that takes, I think, a real specialist set of skills.
Yeah, and some of the skills that Whitney spoke about is like that communication you have to be able to do up and down the organization. So selling the platform both to gain funding for it, but also to gain adoption for it and all those things. But why should product owners have a monopoly on that? So I've lived in the life without a product owner. I've lived with a product owner as well, and I've gotten value from both. And the thing that I think gets underappreciated is just how much, if you want to be an engineer who progresses in the IC track, the individual contributor track, these skills we're talking about that product owners do need to be a part of your repertoire. They aren't probably going to be your main capabilities, but being able to communicate, being able to think empathetically with your customers, being able to absorb feedback and figure out what the way forward is. It's more than just implementing the feature that got asked for. These are things that you need to get to staff and principal levels of engineering. And so when you have a product owner, you're at risk of offloading all of that to a single person. So I'm not saying product owners are a bad thing for platform teams. I think that they bring a ton of value, and I'm grateful when they're around. But if you're in a world where you don't have one, I wouldn't consider yourself at a loss either. Take advantage of the career opportunities as an engineer to move that way.
That's awesome. Leena, I love your visuals. I have a platform sandwich and a platform iceberg. So now I'm just picturing an iceberg with a slice of bread on the top and underneath.
The light.
Yeah. Now we're going to do a quiz in the most clickbait website style ever. So this really is a quiz. If you want to use your notepad to keep track of your answers, we will have you will get to learn about yourself at the end of it. So an engineering team raises an issue about your new golden path. You, A, nod, smile, and listen. Take notes like an empathetic leader and tweak the solution because user feedback matters. Do you B, chuckle knowingly and say, ah, yes, the resistance to innovation, I've seen this before, and then proceed to change nothing? Or do you C, roll your eyes hard and mutter, it's your fault for not following the documentation, knowing full well that there is no documentation? Write down your answer.
All right, so second question. A developer comes to you in a panic because your infrastructure as code automation broke production. You, A, stay calm, blame no one, and jump into incident response mode like the platform hero that you are. Or you, B, say, huh, weird, worked on my machine, and then slowly walk away pretending you didn't hear them. Or C, you insist that the outage is actually a feature, not a bug, and that it enforces resilience. Chaos engineering, baby. Let's go.
All right.
Okay, we good? Right. So, a member of the feature team asks for an easier way to deploy apps. But you love, right, your super advanced, fully declarative, AI-powered quantum GitOps pipeline. Do you, A, simplify it and make their life easier? Because platform engineering is about empowering people, not confusing them. Do you B, say, well, this is cutting-edge technology. You just need to read the 47-page wiki that I wrote? Or do you C, laugh maniacally and add another layer of abstraction?
Hopefully you got that answer down. A junior engineer suggests an idea that could improve your platform. You, A, encourage them. Give them space to experiment and recognize their contribution. Future platform engineers got to start somewhere. B, smirk and say, that's cute. Then remind them that your solution has seen things in production. Or do you C, pull up a slide deck titled Why You're Wrong, a deep dive, and walk them through it gently?
Okay, and our last question. A developer team goes rogue and builds their own infra instead of using your glorious platform. Do you A, talk to them, understand their needs, and figure out why your solution wasn't meeting them? Or B, passive-aggressively update the internal wiki with a section titled Why Shadow IT is a Crime Against Humanity? Or do you C, place a laminated "We do not speak of the incident" sign up in the office and pretend that team never existed? So if your answers were mostly A's,
then you are the real MVP, and you can use that meme. So you actually get platform engineering, you listen, you adapt, and you focus on making developers' lives easier. Your ego, it's perfectly balanced, like all things should be, as you clearly are when you call yourself the MVP. You're not just awesome, you're legendary.
If you're mostly Bs, then you're, kind of mildly delusional, but you're okay, and we still love you, engineer. You mean well, but sometimes you're a little bit too in love with your own solutions. So what you need to do is, just stop, take a breath, drink some water, and remember, it's not about the tech, it's about the people using it.
If you're up mostly C's, you're an absolute platform overload. Please stop, seriously. Your ego is so bloated, it has its own Kubernetes cluster. Developers, they fear you. Your documentation has 0 survivors. It's time for a reality check before your golden path turns into a dystopian nightmare.
And that's the end of our talk. Thank you so, so much. We don't have time for any questions, but feel free to come talk to us. Thank you, when you see us around. Appreciate you.